My name's Angelo, and welcome to We Want Picks. I'm going to break down the new UFC 287 fight card. I'm going to give you my picks, my predictions, and my bets. The reason I say new is we already have a couple of fights swapped around. Michael Chiesa might have a new opponent, or he's off. We have a new opponent for Chase Sherman. We have a new opponent for Ignacio Bahamondes. So I'm going to walk through this entire card, giving you my picks, my predictions, and my bets. Before I jump in, why don't you head on over to WeWantPicks.com and become a premium member? This is a pay-per-view, the 5th pay-per-view on the year, and we absolutely murder pay-per-views. We absolutely murder them. There's been 4 pay-per-views on the year so far, and we have given you 45 units of net profit. 45 units of net profit, and this does not even include the safety parlay, which is another 6 units. This is just straight up the bets that we throw up there for premium members. WeWantPicks.com. At the top, click Become a Member. It is only $10 a month. You're going to get all the picks, all the bets, all the early predictions, the DraftKings optimizer, the plays, the DraftKings ownership. You're going to get the tools like the line movement tracker. And there's some interesting line movement this week alone already. We have seen Chris Curtis go from favorite to underdog, and Chris Curtis is very live in this fight. We'll talk about that in a minute. But the line movement tracker helps you identify line movement that you like or don't like so you can find your spots as well. We also have a 38-column, very detailed spreadsheet of different information and things that can help you find your spots. This isn't just about copying our bets, which, as I showed earlier, have been very successful for pay-per-views. This is also about giving you everything that you need to find your spots. WeWantPicks.com. At the top, click Become a Member. And if March Madness has not been as good to you as you would have hoped, I'll send you $50. All you need to do is go to WeWantPicks.com/bets. We have 4 different online sportsbook betting partners. Sign up with any one of them using our link, and we will send you $50 as a thank you. It's affiliate marketing, right? They're going to pay me, and then I'm going to break off a piece of that and pay you. We're all in this together. WeWantPicks.com/bets. Sign up with any one of our affiliate partners, make a deposit, and I will send you $50 as a thank you. Interesting fight card. We have a lot of mid-size favorites. This whole card is loaded with like mid-200 favorites. Couple of huge favorites, couple of, pick'ems, but for the most part, it's mid-size favorites, which is always tricky because the underdogs are always live in those fights. Let's go ahead and break this down. Opening up UFC 287, we have Sam Hughes taking on UFC newcomer Jaqueline Amorim. Sam Hughes is a good striker. She is pretty big for this weight class. She's very aggressive, but she's also super hittable. You can see that negative striking differential right there. She works in wrestling. In her last couple of fights, she had 6 takedowns with plenty of pressure. She's coming off that decision loss to Pereira, where she did show just how tough she is, right? She was just outmatched, got smoked the first 2 rounds. 3rd round, though, came forward and won that round, which just, again, speaks to how tough she actually is. Jaqueline Amorim's a very talented prospect. She's a slick grappler. She's got nice blast doubles and a myriad of submissions. She also has power in her hands and is a genuine threat everywhere. She comes forward like a buzzsaw and just cuts through everything. Her striking is a bit wide, right? She just big looping strikes. It is raw as well, but the power is insane. You do not see too many women at this weight class that can one punch knock people out, but Jaqueline definitely can. And Jaqueline's absolutely going to be the pick here. She's dangerous everywhere. She is going to be a problem in this division. Sam is tough as hell, and that can be an issue for some of these UFC debuts, especially a UFC debut on a pay-per-view card. So Jaqueline's going to be the pick. I don't have a bet here yet. This may be an under round line bet because Jaqueline could definitely stop Sam Hughes, but I'm going to sit tight and see what happens. The reality is Jaqueline should be better literally everywhere except raw toughness, and this would not be the first time that we have seen the UFC veteran just stay tough and then pull it out later when the newcomers sort of blew their wad or got themselves into some trouble early in their career, especially in their UFC debut. So Jaqueline's the pick. I might find a bet here, but for now, we're going to sit tight and see what the rest of the week looks like when they drop the props. Then we have Shayilan Nuerdanbieke taking on Steve Garcia. And Steve Garcia is a solid grappler. He's got good takedowns and decent boxing. He likes to come forward with big, heavy strikes, and he uses those to set up those takedowns. His striking is solid, right? He's got nice movement, big power, decent speed. He's not afraid to mix it up, but he can overly expose himself with that aggression, right? He'll just come forward sort of wild and loose at times and then be open to get hit himself. He's coming off that win over Chase Hooper, where he hit him hard, he hit him often, and he got that first round finish. Shayilan Nuerdanbieke is a powerful grappler who likes to come forward with heavy strikes. He has that bully style where he plots forward, throws big, pushes you against the cage, and then works the takedowns. He will transition from one takedown to another pretty well, and when he's on top, he does have solid pressure and ground and pound. He also has a high per fight takedown average of almost 3, but the success rate is low, right? He's only getting those takedowns at a 32% accuracy. He's coming off that win over Derek Minner, if you remember, almost canceled all UFC betting in the entire world, but that wasn't his fault. That was his opponent's. And this is going to be an interesting fight because Steve Garcia is a super tough guy that you can't just overlook. You can't count him out of a fight, but so is Shayilan, right? Steve Garcia is going to have the much higher pace, the higher pressure, but I think that's where the advantages end, right? Nuerdanbieke should be more powerful, have the better wrestling, and I'm just hoping he's not gun shy. You can see here on the stats, this 2.17 strikes landed per minute. That is a low number. That's less than half of what Steve Garcia is landing, and if Shayilan's going to be a little gun shy, a little too reserved, that could catch up to him, and that could be a problem. It is an artificially low number because he's diving at legs, right? So he's not throwing significant strikes when he's grabbing legs, but he has been gun shy, and that could worry me a little bit. I do think this fight is a little closer than what the odds say because of that low volume from Shayilan, but Shayilan's going to be the pick here. This is a cool live bet situation because if you're watching the fight and Shayilan doesn't get those first couple of takedowns, well, bang, Steve Garcia live bet all day because Shayilan's going to need those takedowns to get it done because that low volume on his feet will be a problem. The judges are going to like Steve Garcia marching forward. So Shayilan is for sure the pick. When BetOnline drops those takedown prop bets, this is definitely one that we're going to keep an eye on. If you don't know, BetOnline has prop bets for who's going to land more takedowns, who's going to land more significant strikes, and sometimes you'll get some pretty solid odds like 2-to-1 odds. And that doesn't sound great, but 2-to-1 odds on, let's say, who's going to land more significant strikes, for example, Steve Garcia lands at more than double the pace, and Shayilan has a negative strike differential, which means he's hit more often than he hits other people. So Steve Garcia to land more significant strikes in this fight is a solid bet, and come Friday when those props drop, I will probably hit that. Same exact logic, potentially with Shayilan on takedowns. Guys, first thing you're going to do is go to weonpicks.com/bets, sign up with BetOnline using my link, and I'll send you $50. The second thing you're going to do is become a premium member. It's only $10 a month. And you can link your Discord so that when I do hit those prop bets, you can get an alert immediately on your phone. Right, on Fridays, we put out the free betting video. We'll give you a couple bets for free. Actually, all of my bets for free or most. And then we'll talk about some other bets and some opportunities. These takedowns and strike line prop bets drop after that video. So premium members get those after the video because their Discord is linked and they get the alert on their phone. WeWantPicks.com, become a member. It's $10 a month. I don't even know why I have to keep telling people. Then we have Ignacio Bahamondes has a new opponent. Trey Ogden is stepping up on short notice after his fight was canceled just a few weeks ago. Ignacio Bahamondes is big for the division. He's a very good striker with surprising volume and just okay power. He's got very good footwork and head movement, which protects him from power shots. And he's got solid takedown defense at 95%. His takedown offense, however, sits at a horrendous 0, right? He's 0 for 4 in takedown attempts in the UFC. He's coming back after a year away, but he did look fantastic in his last win over Zhu Rong, where he snatched up a submission off of Zhu's takedown attempt. Trey Ogden is an athletic grappler with solid takedowns and decent power in his hands. He is absolutely a grappler, but if you run through his tape, you'll see that some of those submission wins were started with strikes, right? He dropped his opponents with the strikes and then jumped on top and snatched up a neck. His takedowns are really well timed, and he does an excellent job of lowering his level and shooting blast doubles when his opponents come in. He's coming off that win over Daniel Zellhuber, where he was only 1 for 9 in takedown attempts, but he was tough on his feet and he won the striking exchanges. And I need to go Ignacio Bahamondes all day long. Trey is solid, but just like we saw with Austin Lingo, a few weeks ago, cutting weight multiple times in a 2 to 3 week span is a problem. Plus, Ignacio's got that fantastic takedown defense. He's going to be the much better striker. Ignacio all the way here. The only thing preventing me from just loading up on bets is that year layoff for Ignacio, but I am 100% positive I will have bets on him before this week is up. So Ignacio Bahamondes, absolutely the pick here. I think he's going to get this done. Trey Ogden, super tough, big power in his hands, but I don't think that's going to matter here. So keep an eye out. If your Discord is linked and you are a premium member, just keep an eye out because there will be more bets coming in, especially on this fight. Then we got Cynthia Calvillo taking on the always tough but unpredictable Lupita Godinez. Cynthia Calvillo is pretty well-rounded, right? She's a good striker. She's a good grappler. She has takedowns. And while she's pretty well-rounded, she's a little slow for the division, and she doesn't really have any power. When she gets you to the ground, she's going to soften you up with strikes and then sink in a submission. She lands more than 4 significant strikes per minute, but it's obvious she's not comfortable in a lot of these striking exchanges. And it's easy to say she's on a 4-fight skid, but every single one of those losses was to a quality opponent in the division. Lupita Godinez is very big, very strong. She's a wrestler with solid striking. She's got real power and clean boxing. She's got great setups to both the wrestling and the striking. She is very big for this weight class, and she uses that size and strength well to execute sort of her bully style game plan, right? She wants to come forward, bully you against the cage, take you down, just sort of push you around, big sister you. But she is coming off the ridiculously disappointing loss to Angela Hill where she looked flat and she could not get that bully style going. And you could chalk that up to Angela Hill, veteran savvy, or you could just be, Lupita's inconsistent. And it's a hard line to draw there because if Lupita didn't just light our money on fire against Angela Hill, I'd be betting the absolute she'd be in the safety parlay. I'd be all over Lupita Godinez in this fight, just like we were all over Holly Holm last week. But she did. She sucked in that fight. And now it's hard to fully trust her. With that being said, this should be a destruction. Lupi should absolutely be able to bully Cynthia, push her around, get her taken down, beat her up. Cynthia does have a nice 75% takedown defense, which can be a bit worrisome, but I think her best days are behind her, and I think just the nonstop pressure and pace from Lupi coming forward, landing big, working those takedowns, almost 5 takedowns per fight. I think that's absolutely going to get it done. The line is a little bit juiced here in the mid to high minus 200s for Lupi, but she should absolutely get this done. Then we got Gerald Meerschaert taking on Joe Pyfer, and this is another interesting fight because everybody wants to talk about Gerald Meerschaert having no chin whatsoever, but we'll talk about that in a second because Gerald Meerschaert's a very good grappler. He's always live for a submission. He's not great in his feet. Again, people question his chin, but over his last couple of fights, I think he sort of put the Gerald Meerschaert has no chin conversation to rest. He's an incredibly talented grappler, but like so many others, he's got no takedowns, right? He doesn't have the good offensive wrestling to get it there. He does average a little more than 2 takedowns per fight, but he's doing that at a 37% accuracy. Joe Pyfer is an incredibly powerful striker who's coming off a successful run on the Dana White Contender Series. You're going to see a loss in his first Contender Series appearance, but that was an injury. He managed to break his arm in that fight, clean in half, but then he healed up, he came back, and then knocked out his next 2 opponents cold. His regional success was pretty similar, right? He hits like an absolute truck, uses his pressure to break people, and you don't see much of it, but he does have nice takedowns and solid BJJ as well. Gerald got knocked out in the first round twice in 2020, and that just sparked the whole, Gerald Meerschaert has no chin. He's chinny. His chin sucks. But honestly, his chin has been holding up. In fact, he just submitted Bruno Silva in the 3rd round, and middleweight Bruno Silva is got to be one of the top 10 hardest hitting guys in this division, and Gerald Meerschaert was able to survive all of that power and then win that fight. So I don't think we can just say, Gerald Meerschaert's going to get knocked out, right? I think we got to put the chin stuff aside. It seems to be back, and maybe those 2 fights were just the anomaly on his record because Gerald Meerschaert just survived a couple of fights with some decent power. So let's just separate the chin from the rest of this breakdown. I still think Joe Pyfer wins this fight. I don't necessarily think he's going to one-punch KO Gerald Meerschaert early. But Joe's going to have the better striking. We know he has wrestling. We know he has jiu-jitsu. And we know Gerald has no takedowns whatsoever. So the only way this is going to get to the ground, where Gerald needs it to be, is if Joe is going to shoot the takedowns. And he may, but his jiu-jitsu should be good enough to not get submitted. And his hands are good enough that he doesn't need to shoot. So Joe Pyfer is going to be the pick. But a lot of people out there going Joe by knockout. I don't think that's as much of a guarantee as you think it is, right? And it could happen. We've seen Gerald Meerschaert get knocked out and get knocked out early. But we haven't seen it in a while. And Bruno Silva didn't knock him out. And Bruno Silva hits like an absolute freight train. So again, Joe Pyfer is going to be the pick. I don't have a bet here just yet. I will probably find something and make something happen. But Joe Pyfer, for sure, the pick. Then we got Karl Williams taking on Chase Sherman. This is another new matchup as of about 24 hours ago. I'm filming this on Sunday morning. Chase Sherman originally supposed to fight Chris Barnett. Chris is out. Karl Williams stepping up on short notice. And Karl Williams is a powerful striker who is always looking to send that big right hand. He sends everything with power, but he does manage to keep those straight, right? He's not big looping power. He's sending them straight up the middle. When he sees that you're hurt, he just unloads and hunts for that finish. But what I do like about him, even though he's only 9 fights into his career, is if he sees that you're hurt and he unloads on you, but then you're not done yet, he doesn't gas himself out. He will back up, recognize that he's not going to get the finish right there, reset, and then keep going. So he doesn't have those sort of UFC newcomer low fight IQ moments in those exchanges. He does have a wrestling background as well, which he has been using. He had 8 takedowns against Lucas Bresky and 3 in his Contender Series win against Jimmy Lawson. And he's fighting Chase Sherman. We have broken down Chase Sherman probably 30 times on this channel. He's a good boxer with solid foot movement and solid speed. His volume is impressive. He does not stop throwing hands until the last bell, no matter how tired he is, no matter what kind of damage he absorbed. Outside of his fight with Alexander Romanov, he has had some pretty solid takedown defense. He's a high-volume guy, landing more than 6 significant strikes per minute, but he has no head movement whatsoever. His feet move, but his head doesn't, which is why he's hit with almost 7 significant strikes per minute. He's coming off that loss to Waldo Cortez, where he did get a takedown for the first time in his UFC career. And this is why Chase Sherman is a gamer. This is why he still has a job. He's 1-4 in his last 5, but he'll fight anyone, anywhere, anytime. This dude went from a -250 favorite to a +350 underdog. He went from fighting a roly-poly who can do a couple of spin kicks to a beast with hands and takedowns. And unfortunately for Chase, being that amenable guy, being the guy who will take any opponent anywhere on any notice, yes, it's going to get him some secret locker room bonuses that we're not going to hear about, but it's also going to get him losses. He's going to lose this fight. Karl Williams is going to get this done. He's got the power. He's got the pressure. He even has the wrestling. So Karl Williams is the pick. And I'm probably going to put together a Karl Williams, Ignacio Bahamondes parlay. That's not available for me just yet, but as soon as it is, I will hop on that, and I'll probably put that together. We'll see what the odds are, right? Parlays are locked right now with my sportsbook. All the new lines, they lock them for a day or two just to see where it goes. So once it unlocks, might be unreasonable odds, but we'll see what happens when that comes across my table. If you are a premium member, link your Discord. The Discord is free, by the way. Even if you're not a premium member, join the Discord. It's 100% free. If you are a premium member, you can unlock the alerts channel or link the alerts channel so that when I do place bets, you get the alert on your phone instantly. And it's not just myself, Jacob as well. And lots of times when these props start dropping on Tuesdays and then again on Fridays, when the props start dropping, you want to hit those immediately because those do take off and they take off quickly and we can get those, right? Getting some of these money lines before they take off is hard to do, but getting the prop bets before they take off is not. So make sure if you're a premium member, link the Discord. It's on your account page, totally free to do. And if you're not a premium member, it's only $10 a month. $10 a month. You're going to get all 4 events if you sign up today. All 4 events you're going to get at WeWantPicks.com. At the top, just click Become a Member. Then we have Michelle Waterson, who is now listed as Michelle Waterson Gomez, taking on Luana Pinheiro. And if you heard my breakdown last week, it's somewhat similar, but I am starting to lean a little bit more the other way here. Michelle Waterson, also known as the Karate Hottie, is a talented fighter, right? She has been a professional fighter for a ridiculous 15 years. She's got tons of cage time with some of the best to ever do it. She fought multiple champions like Rose Namajunas, Carla Esparza, Joanna Jędrzejczyk. Style-wise, she's a slick striker. She uses her kicks and her distance well with wrestling in her back pocket. She has 21 takedowns in her last 14 fights, and despite a 33% accuracy, she can actually time her shots really well. She's coming off that submission loss to Amanda Lemos, where she looked pretty good early. She was landing more total strikes, more significant strikes before even getting a takedown. Luana Pinheiro is a powerful striker with solid takedowns of her own. She averages almost 5 takedowns per fight at a 77% accuracy, and she lands just as many significant strikes per minute. She's a high-volume fighter with knockdowns in 2 of her 3 UFC fights. She's coming off the decision over Sam Hughes, where she won the striking and the grappling exchanges for a pretty complete win. And this is a hard fight to pick because Michelle Waterson is very good, and veteran savvy absolutely means something, especially in weight classes like this where, yes, Luana has one-punch knockout power, but in these type weight classes where it's a competitive fight, veteran savvy means a lot. Luana is young, she's hungry, she's dangerous, but she hasn't fought anyone nearly as good as Michelle Waterson. I mentioned early, Waterson was doing really well in that Amanda Lemos fight before the submission. And in her 15 years in MMA, she's only been outstruck a handful of times, and she has never been knocked out, ever. And I'm really flip-flopping here. First of all, Luana at a 2-1 favorite is absolutely insane. This fight should be a pick'em, and I might do a plus 3.5 on Michelle Waterson here because Luana should win. She's younger. She's aggressive with the takedown. She has insane power. But Michelle Waterson has pretty good takedown defense. She's going to be the more technical striker. She's going to have the better footwork. She's going to have the veteran savvy, probably the better cardio. So if she could avoid just getting grounded, and if she could avoid the big power, she could win this fight. She's also 37. Definitely on the back 9 of her career. But a plus 3.5 bet. BetOnline is the only sportsbook on planet Earth that offers that bet. Means I'm buying 1 round on the judges' scorecard. So if Michelle Waterson loses 29-28, I'll get paid. If she wins, I get paid. Any way that she wins, I'll get paid. But if she loses 29-28 or better, I guess, I will win that bet. If she gets finished, I'll lose. She gets shut out 30-27, I'll lose. So we'll see when that prop bet drops. We might be able to get some plus money on that. And frankly, I think a lot of us think that Michelle Waterson probably loses this fight, but if she does, it'll be a close fight. She's not going to get absolutely shut out. At least I don't think so. So we'll see when that prop bet drops. Luana Pinheiro is the pick. I think the wrestling is going to be the difference. The power could potentially affect Michelle. We haven't seen that in the past just yet. But anyway, when is the pick? When that plus 3.5 bet drops for BetOnline, if I place it, you will see it in the Discord. Premium members, just make sure your phone is linked so that you'll get the alert. Okay, he just placed that 3.5 bet. Oh, okay, it's plus money. Maybe I want to do that too. WeOwnPicks.com at the top. Click, become a member. Then we have Kelvin Gastelum in the feature prelim fight. Chris Curtis is super salty that he's not on the pay-per-view main card and a 18-year-old kid is. But hey, that's how this goes. Frankly, more people watch the prelims than the pay-per-view. Just that the prelims are free on ESPN. So you're going to get more eyes. Take the feature prelim spot and run with it. We got Kelvin Gastelum, 1-4 in his last 5. Taking on Chris Curtis, 4-1 in his last 5. On a little bit of a hot streak with a weird loss sandwiched in there. Kelvin Gastelum, I have mentioned this a million times over. He is one of the biggest waste of talents we have ever seen in UFC history. He has all of the abilities to be champion, but like none of the work ethic. Look at him. Look at him in this picture. Look at him. Look at him. He fights for a living. The way he pays his bills is to fight. The first thing you need to do is just be in shape. The second thing is hone all of your skills. And unfortunately, Kelvin Gastelum just has not taken his career seriously. He is 1-5 in his last 6. The losses were mostly short notice, right? And they're good losses. Jared Cannonier, Robert Whitaker, Jack Hermanson, Darren Till before Darren Till, and Israel Adesanya. Skill-wise, he's a good wrestler. He's got power in his hands. He has an incredible chin. He's never out of a fight. He should be a 170-pounder, as should Chris Curtis, but he should be a 170-pounder that just couldn't cut the weight the right way, couldn't keep the weight off, didn't have the work ethic. So now he's just sort of banging around at 185, hanging on until he gets cut. And he's taking on Chris Curtis, clean boxer, decent takedown defense, improving takedown offense, solid power in his hands with nice, clean, short punches, which catches people when they don't expect it. He works in leg kicks very well, and he'll touch up the body. He takes his time with his shots, but he's always moving his body, right? He's always moving to stay out of the way of that big power. He's coming off that bounce back win over Joaquin Buckley, where he was out-volumed in the striking, but he found that power halfway through the second round. And listen, if I was going to say, or if you would tell me Kelvin Gastelum is going to show up, ready to go, all of his skills will be on point, he's going to be the guy that fought Izzy a few years ago, then I'd be like, Kelvin's going to win this fight. 100% Kelvin wins this fight. But we haven't seen that guy. That guy hasn't existed in like 4 years. And like every other Kelvin Gastelum breakdown, we talk about all the talent, all the tools, and then he goes out there and he stinks up the joint. So I have to go with the guy in the fight who has shown up, who has put in the work, and that is Chris Curtis. I have a moneyline bet on Chris Curtis. And boy, do I look stupid, because I got him at half a unit at minus 140, which felt very appropriate. He is now plus money. Chris Curtis is an underdog. He is an underdog in this fight. Chris Curtis, who knocked out Joaquin Buckley, who knocked out Phil Hawes, who knocked out Brendan Allen, is the underdog against Kelvin Gastelum, who can't scrounge together a win. Chris Curtis is the pick. Chris Curtis is the bet. I don't even regret minus 140. Obviously, I'd prefer the plus money, but I think minus 140 was a good value, hence the bet. Chris Curtis, absolutely the pick. But again, if Kelvin Gastelum shows up the way that we have seen him occasionally in the past, he's the better fighter. Kelvin Gastelum has more power, has a better chin, has the better wrestling. He's the better fighter. And he just doesn't care. Wasted talent. Actually, that's what this says in Italian. Wasted talent. Hasn't put it together recently. So Kelvin Gastelum, unfortunately, is probably going to get cut after this fight unless he steps up on short notice to stave a card. They do him a favor. Chris Curtis, the pick, the bet. And if you want to see Jacob's bets, he's got a whole bunch flying on this fight. He bet this fight 2 separate times throughout the week. WeOwnPicks.com. Become a member for only $10. You'll unlock all the bets. I think we're at like 12 or 13 units, maybe 14 units on UFC 287 already. Couple of parlays, couple of money lines, couple of round props, and a round parlay as well. And when the rest of the props drop, we'll load up even more. WeOwnPicks.com. At the top, click, become a member. Then we have the 18-year-old. We got Raul Rosas Jr., who seems to be the bane of Chris Curtis's existence right now. And he's taking on Christian Rodriguez. Raul Rosas Jr. is a non-stop wrestler who's barely old enough to buy a scratch off. Definitely hasn't going to sniff a beer in a few years. He's only 18 years old, but he's very, very solid so far. He has 5 takedowns in 2 fights with only 17 minutes of fight time. Right? He has been in the cage for 17 minutes. 14 of those minutes, he has had control time. In 14 minutes of the 17, he has been in control, which means he was only standing for 3 of 17 minutes. That's just how dominant he is. He comes forward, starts grappling immediately. His striking is okay. It definitely needs some work. He can come in a bit reckless and sort of put himself in harm's way for no reason, but he's stupid fast, he's athletic, and he sets an absolutely relentless pace. Christian Rodriguez is a slick striker with solid movement and good speed. He bounces between 35 and 45, but his only career loss was at 145. So he's good here. If this was up, I mean, I would bet my mortgage if for some reason Rosas was a 145-pounder and Christian went up, because he's just too small to be at 145. So he should be good here at 135. He has decent takedown defense at 56%, but he has been taken down 10 times in the UFC so far. He's coming off that first-round submission win over Josh Weems, where he did land some big power early. Very simple breakdown here. Very simple. Christian Rodriguez has been taken down 10 times in 3 fights. Raul Rosas takes down everybody at an insane pace. Raul Rosas will get the takedowns, will get the control time, will win this fight. It's just that simple. It's just that simple. Christian Rodriguez does have that big power in his hands. This is a fist fight. Raul Rosas is young, and he could get caught coming in. That's the reality of this sport. That's why betting on this sport is so tricky. But it should not be an issue. Raul Rosas should absolutely win. I got him at minus 185. He's like minus 350 right now. If you're a premium member, you saw the 1 unit bet at minus 185. Hopefully you hopped on that train with those odds at that spot before they really took off. And if you're a premium member, you have access to the line movement tracker, which will help you identify those trends. You'll see the opening odds for every fighter, the current odds for every fighter, the implied probability for those fighters, and then you'll see the trend, right? You'll see the percentage gain or loss in the line movement. We have 3 new matchups on this card, potentially a 4th with Michael Chiesa. The line movement tracker will help you identify the trend. So if you trust Vegas or you trust the people more, you can identify the trend and pick your spots there. That's available to all premium members at WeWantPicks.com. It is only $10 a month. The pick, the bet, everything Raul Rosas Jr. I just don't think Christian Rodriguez was taken down 10 times so far in his career. This is not the fight where all of a sudden he's not going to get taken down. Then we have Kevin Holland taking on Santiago Ponzinibbio. Another really good fight, really good matchmaking on this card because we're going to find out a lot about both of these guys. Kevin Holland is an accurate and powerful striker who's got that miserable takedown defense we love to talk about, but he's got solid grappling. And other than the wrestling, right? His wrestling is absolute trash city. Other than his wrestling, Kevin is a killer. He's a sniper on his feet with good accuracy and solid range. He can grapple, right? His wrestling sucks, but his jiu-jitsu is solid, right? He can be a problem on the ground with his length, and he just really works for submissions, finds things, and sticks to them pretty well. You're not necessarily safe if you take him down because of that jiu-jitsu, but the reality is you can take him down if you want to. He's coming off that loss to Wonderboy, where he was picked apart on his feet, and he turned into a wrestler. I talk about his wrestling sucking, but he turned into a wrestler in that fight, just started diving at legs because Wonderboy was just touching him up on his feet. Santiago Ponzinibbio is a very solid striker who likes to stay out of the pocket. His striking is clean, and he's one of the few people who can actually manage range well. He doesn't have a ton of raw power, but he's got great volume, and he works those TKOs because of the volume, because of the pressure. He's coming off that fantastic win over Alex Morono, where he doubled the strikes and then got the TKO in the 3rd round. And this is a really fun fight to watch and a tricky fight to break down because both guys are solid strikers, but they're very different. Ponzinibbio is a more power type guy, right? He's got more power there. He has great range management, but Holland is more accurate, right? Between the two of them, Holland's going to be more accurate. Ponzinibbio is going to have just the bigger power, and he's going to have the striking defense, Holland at least. Wonderboy was able to pick Holland apart. I don't think Ponzinibbio is going to have that same success, especially now that we know Kevin is willing to wrestle. Like, it was embarrassing when he was wrestling Wonderboy because he was wrestling because he was getting touched up, but it showed he's got the wherewithal to be like, I'm getting my ass kicked. I have to change something, and then he did. So Kevin Holland should win this fight. And if he wants to wrestle, he may end up wrestling. Hopefully he doesn't have to wrestle because if he's wrestling, that means he's losing the striking exchanges. So let's break this down very simply. Kevin Holland is not going to have more power, but he should be the more accurate fighter. He should be the faster fighter, and he's going to be the longer fighter. Ponzinibbio does manage range well, does have that big power, but Kevin Holland should be able to out-technique him. Kevin Holland is going to be the pick, but this is a super sketchy fight to bet because Ponzinibbio is very, very live here and very, very good. So no bet for me. I'm just going to watch this fight and enjoy it because it's a sketchy fight. It's a dangerous fight to bet on, but Kevin Holland will be the pick. Then we have a really, really fun fight. We have just 2 of the better strikers in the division. Rob Font taking on Adrian Yanez. Rob Font is gritty. He's tough. He's a very, very technical striker. He doesn't have much power at all, but he does have a decent chin. He is primarily a boxer, so you're not going to see him kicking or wrestling very often, but he does have those in his back pocket, but he doesn't really need to because he's so fast, and he works in and out of the pocket before most fighters know that he even touched them up. If we're going to look at his stats, he has that insane volume and striking differential of 6-4. He's landing more than 6 significant strikes per minute at this weight class is pretty impressive. He is coming off that loss to Chito Vera where he smoked Chito statistically. He outlanded him 273 to 176, but his skin had issues with Vera, right? Vera would throw a punch and bang, eyes swollen, blood gushing. He looked like he went through a meat grinder. but he landed more. He was the cleaner striker, just couldn't handle the power. Adrian Yanez is a fun technical striker with solid IQ. He's got fast hands, real power, and incredible chin. He can be a slow starter, right? If you dig into his stats, he was outstruck in the first round in 2 of his last 3 fights. But he starts to put it together, really makes things happen in the second and third rounds. He has 6 fights in the UFC, 5 fight of the night bonuses, and 5 stoppage wins. He's coming off that first round destruction of Tony Kelly, and he also has a very impressive striking volume at 6.62 significant strikes landed per minute. I love Rob Font. I've been following his career for a very long time. I'm from the Northeast, so is he. Long before the UFC. Unfortunately, I think he's going to lose this fight. This is a changing of the guard fight, right? He's essentially fighting a younger version of himself. At one point, Rob Font had the most technical boxing in the division, but a few years later, a couple of wars later, the younger guys are sort of nipping at his heels. I think Adrian Yanez is going to beat Rob to the punch. There's a 6-year age gap, and I think that's going to be evident in this fight with the hand speed. Rob is tough. This more than likely goes to a decision, and we all know things can get weird on the scorecards, especially if Yanez starts slow and gives up that first round. But I still think Yanez is going to get this done. This is a great fight to find out how good he actually is. I don't have a bet just yet. I am looking at the over on the rounds or fight does go to a decision, because if Rob Font was able to take on that Chito Vera power, he should be fine with Adrian Yanez. The only thing that worries me there is speed is better than power half the time, right? If Rob's sort of coming in chasing and Adrian Yanez is right there, that's going to drop him, right? That's going to do a lot of damage, more than just the blood, right? That's going to get his brains rattled, drop him, and Adrian is going to pounce, unlike Chito, who took a step back. So I might do the fight does go to a decision prop bet. We'll keep an eye on that. But for now, Adrian Yanez is absolutely the pick. Jacob has a whole bunch of money on this fight. Check that out. Premium members, you've seen those bets. If you're not premium, go check Jacob's bets out now at WeWantPicks.com. Just click Become a Member, and you will unlock everything. The picks, the bets, the raw notes, the confidence plays, the DraftKings plays, the optimizer, the line movement tracker, the 38 columns of detailed spreadsheet data, all of that at only $10 a month. Then we have the co-main event of the evening. We have Gilbert Burns taking on George Masvidal. Gilbert Burns is a grappler. He's also a 155-pounder that's come up to 170, but he's a grappler who has developed striking over time. He's pretty good everywhere. His power is impressive, especially considering that I mentioned he was a 155-pounder. He is a little undersized, just sort of in stature, but he is fast, he's powerful, and he's tough enough to hang with the division's elite. He dropped Usman and almost had him out in that fight a few years ago. Most recently, he just absolutely destroyed Neil Magny, where he needed less than 1 round to get a takedown and very quickly a submission. And he's taking on George Masvidal, who we all know is the BMF, right? He's got that belt. Couple of wars, couple of really high-profile fights in the last few years, but not a lot of wins. He's a fantastic striker who has his own wrestling game and a very strong ground game if he needs to. He's a no-nonsense guy, right? He was a journeyman, and then 2 different things just sort of shot him to fame. 1, he was in an interview backstage. He saw Leon Edwards. Leon Edwards talked some shit. He left the interview, smacked up Leon Edwards, and then just came back like nothing ever happened. And then 2, he got into that big fight with Diaz, got the BMF, actually he got that fight because he did the 3-second knockout over Ben Askren. But the reality is Ben Askren was going to smoke George Masvidal if George didn't catch him with that knee. But anyway, George Masvidal went from journeyman, who is very well-rounded, very good everywhere, to absolute superstar. The problem is, when he became the superstar, he got the superstar fights. Colby Covington beat him. Kamaru Usman beat him. And he's not beating the division elite. What did come out of fighting Colby Covington, Kamaru Usman, is that takedown defense. His takedown defense is rock solid. It is rock solid. He's fighting the best wrestlers in the division. And yes, he's getting taken down, but not at the pace that others would be. So his takedown defense is very, very good. And that is the only reason I'm not all in on Gilbert Burns. Gilbert Burns minus 500 favorite at this point. But Gilbert Burns is going to need to get this to the ground to win this fight. And do you think Gilbert Burns has the same takedowns as Kobe or Kamaru? I don't. His accuracy is only 35%. Yes, he manhandled Neil Magny, but Neil Magny is not George Masvidal. So that's the one thing that worries me here. The one thing that worries me here. And the line reflects that. Gilbert Burns opened at a minus 600. It's tightened. It's still ridiculous, but it has tightened. I do think Gilbert Burns wins this fight, right? I think Gilbert Burns is on a mission to try to get back to the title shot. I think George Masvidal is making as much money as possible, setting himself up for the future, right? He wants the big fights with the big paydays. He's got his boxing promotion. He's doing the right things to set himself up for life. Gilbert Burns is trying to win the title. I think Gilbert Burns can come forward. Will have some success with the wrestling, not at the same pace that Kobe did or Kamaru did. And I think Gilbert Burns does win this fight. I don't like the odds. I do not have him in a safety parlay because there is a world where George Masvidal defends the takedowns. And now you're in a kickboxing match with George Masvidal. And George Masvidal is going to be the better kickboxer. Period. End of story. We just know that. So if Gilbert doesn't get the takedowns, he's in a lot of trouble. And I'm not so sure he's going to get all of these takedowns. So Gilbert's going to be the pick. I have no bet on this fight. There's no parlay with Gilbert Burns in it. The odds are a little too ridiculous for me. And as I mentioned, George Masvidal could absolutely win this fight. Gilbert's the pick. I feel like a lot of you guys agree with me. I've seen a lot of comments lately saying, yeah, I get that read. I agree with that read. Let me know what you think of this. Again, Gilbert's the pick, but George Masvidal's takedown defense is very good. His hands are very good. And there is a world where he wins this fight, which is why I don't have a bet on it. I think Jacob may, and if he doesn't, he might this week. So make sure your Discord is linked for premium members. Then we have the main event of the evening. This is a very interesting main event. It's obviously a rematch. We got Alex Pereira defending his belt against Israel Adesanya. And if we talk about the first fight, Alex Pereira was losing that fight. He was going to lose a decision. And then midway through the 5th round, he got himself a stoppage, which means it's the 3rd time that Alex Pereira has beat Israel Adesanya. And 2 of them were by knockout. 2 times Alex Pereira knocked out Israel Adesanya. 1 time he beat him by decision. Alex Pereira's got great leg kicks, great body kicks, insane power. Everything is well-timed, well-distanced. He was taken down a few times by Bruno Silva, was taken down by Andreas Michailidis. He was even taken down by Izzy. But he still maintains a very solid 73% takedown defense. Alex Pereira is a massive human being with insane power and insane technique. His striking technique is solid. It's just clean. Boom, bang. Like it's just right there. Short, clean shots with all the power in the world. And he's taking on Israel Adesanya. I mean, look at the record difference. 7-1 to 23-2. It's insane. Israel Adesanya, I don't need to spend a ton of time talking about his history. We all know who he is. The 2nd best middleweight of all time. He could have been the best middleweight of all time if he won that last fight, but he didn't. So the 2nd best middleweight of all time, and he was absolutely unbeatable at this weight class until that last fight. He times his strikes really well. He's a great counter striker. He's got a decent chin. He literally will roll his shoulders to avoid those punches with that solid head work. Almost nothing lands. He quickly fires back. His takedown defense is also solid at 77%, but Alex Pereira did go 1 for 1 in that fight with that takedown. It was a beautiful takedown as well, but anyway, Izzy did wrestle in their last matchup. Izzy was winning the point striking exchanges. Worked in 1 takedown. He attempted 4. He got 1. He had 6 minutes of control time in that fight. And this is a very, very hard fight to break down. I mentioned it last week. The statistics forever in the UFC, champions who lost their belt and got an immediate rematch are only 4-13. Only 4 times ever has a champion lost their belt, got an immediate rematch, and then won it back. 13 times they got the shit kicked out of them. 13 times. And we just watched Kamaru Usman fail at getting his belt back. I don't know what to do with this fight, right? When I broke it down last week, I said, I think Izzy's going to win. I think Izzy is just going to pot shot, dance, potentially wrestle, like run around in a boring, pathetic fight, avoiding the power. But every day that goes by, I rewatched that fight and I'm like, man, Izzy was a little gun shy. I don't think he was scared. A lot of people are like, oh, he's scared. I think he was just fighting a smart fight. I can't be in a firefight with this guy. He's got big power. But he was just stopped. And that is concerning. And as Jacob said, I'm going to pick, this is Jacob talking, I'm going to pick the guy who won this fight 3 times already. So I might do a full flip here and go Alex Pereira. He does have the insane power. He has won this fight 3 times. The one takedown that he shot was clean. It was beautiful. The head was on the outside. He drove with the head. He did what he needed to do. So I'm doing a full flip here, guys. I'm going to pick Alex Pereira, but this is a 50, can't be 50. It's a 49-51 fight. And the only reason I'm sort of leaning off of Izzy back to Alex here is because, man, our web guy Josh said it best, and I listened to it, I heard it, I'm like, I agree with everything you're saying, but I just think Izzy's going to win this fight. I just think he is going to dance around for 25 minutes. But what he essentially said was Israel Adesanya fought the best fight he could ever fight in that last fight. He did everything perfect. He avoided the power perfectly, and then he lost. He still couldn't get it done. He fought a perfect fight for 23 minutes and still lost. You really think he's going to go out there and fight a perfect fight for 25 minutes? And I flip-flop on this. Go watch Jacob. He'll be much more positive in the breakdown. I think the absolute 100% bet here, as soon as it drops, is going to be Alex Pereira inside the distance, decision, no action. Israel Adesanya is not going to stop Alex Pereira, even though he did have him rocked, right? I mentioned Alex Pereira beat Israel Adesanya 3 times. Israel Adesanya had Alex Pereira on ice skates 2 times. 2 times, including in their last fight. Izzy rocked Alex, almost got it done, but Alex survived. So the bet will be Alex Pereira inside the distance, decision, no action when that drops. Make sure your Discord is linked. If you're a premium member and your Discord is linked, you will get an alert to your phone. Oh, they dropped that bet. Let me hop on that very quickly. Or, all right, I see the bet. The odds aren't good enough. I'm not going to do it. But at least you have it, right? You're at work. You're running errands. You're doing whatever. I assume most of you, I don't know what the hell you're doing with your lives. Anyway, you're out, you're about. You don't have time to monitor the odds like I do, like Jacob does, like the rest of the team does. You got the alert to your phone. You'll see it. You like it. You can hit it right then and there. You're good to go before the line gets crazy. Alex Pereira is the pick, but like, Jesus, like right there is the pick. Right there. Right? It's a 50-50 pick. But the bet, Alex Pereira inside the distance, because I think if anybody's going to win by finish, it's going to be him. Decision, no action, because if he does get out-techniqued, out-pot-shotted for 25 minutes, well, I'll get a refund on that bet. WeWantPicks.com, become a member at the top, and link your Discord. Don't forget, we have been pay-per-view assassins. If history continues on this trend, right? 283, I gave you 8 units of net profit. 284, we lost less than a half a unit. 285, 16 units. 286, 21 units for 45 units of net profit on the pay-per-views in 2023. Go to WeWantPicks.com, click Become a Member. It's only $10 a month. We give you all sorts of tools and information. It's not just copy-paste bets. You're going to get the DraftKings optimizer. You're going to get the line movement tracker. You're going to get the picks, our detailed notes. You're going to get round lines. I don't talk about this enough. We break down the round lines for every single fight. Every single fight, we give you our round line leans. You're going to get the DraftKings plays, ownership projections. You're going to get FanDuel plays and projections. You're going to get prize picks, underdog. You're going to get a 38-column interactive spreadsheet of detailed data and metrics to help you find your spots. If you don't like my bets and you don't like Jacob's bets, that's totally fine. Use our data. Use our tools. Place your own bets. WeWantPicks.com at the top. Click Become a Member. It is only $10 a month. And if you want $50, I will send you $50. Just go to WeWantPicks.com/bets. Sign up with any one of our betting partners. Make a deposit, and I'll send you $50 as a thank you. It's affiliate marketing. They're going to pay me. You're going to sign up. They're going to pay me. They're going to say, Angelo, thank you for bringing us this customer. And then they're going to give me a couple of bucks. And then I'm going to take that money. I'm going to split it up, and I'm going to give some of it right back to you. WeWantPicks.com/bets. Sign up. Make a deposit. I will send you $50 as a thank you.